Hi, I'm video analysis specialist and biomechanical engineer. If you have ever opened a scientific paper and thought, what do I even start? You're not alone. Today, I'll walk you through how to analyze a biomechanics article like a researcher, like a pro. We will look beyond the words into the data and I'll show you how to spot that matters and what might be misleading. Whatever you are, a student, early career scientist, or just curious, this is where you level up. Let's get started. We take this article as an example and I'll be post videos analyzing step-by-step articles like this, or you can suggest me articles you are interested in, just leave a comment below. Analyses of joint movements are important in the study of human motion and are crucial for our understanding of, for example, how and why ACL injuries occur. Well, joint moments equal to the rotational forces around a joint. They tell us how much muscular or external force is causing movement or resisting it. Human motion refers to any physical movement of the human body, including how joint, muscles, and limbs move through space. In biomechanics, it's studied to understand performance, injury mechanisms, rehabilitation, and movement efficacy. ACL, anterior cruciate ligament, equal to a major knee ligament. It's often injured during high load, fast or cutting movements, especially in sports. EG stands for the Latin phrase exempli gratia, which means for example. It is used when you want to give one or more examples to clarify what you mean, but not a complete list. So this sentence says, to understand motion and prevent injuries like ACL tears, we need to analyze the torques acting on joints. Next, such analysis may be affected by artifacts due to inconsistencies in the equations of motion, where force and movement data are filtered with different cutoff frequencies. Artifacts equal to errors or distortions in data that aren't part of the real signal, caused by technical or processing issues. Equations of motion means mathematical formulas that describe how forces produce movement. In biomechanics, they are used to estimate internal joint loads. Filtering equal to removing high-frequency noise from raw data. Cutoff frequency, the threshold in hertz beyond which data are filtered out. For example, if you use a 10 Hz cutoff, you are removing anything above 10 Hz. So, this sentence warns, if you filter motion and force data at different rates, the equations become unbalanced and the results, like joint moments, may become inaccurate. The purpose of this study was to quantify the effect of these artifacts and compare joint moments calculated with the same or different cutoff frequency for the filtering of force and movement data. Quantify means measure or assign numbers to something. In this case, how much the artifacts affect joint moments. This sentence sets the study's goal. They want to see how big the error is when you use mismatched filtering settings. 123 elite handball players performed sidestep cutting while the movement was recorded by 8 240 Hz cameras and the ground reaction forces were recorded by a 960 Hz force plate. Sidestep cutting equal to a rapid sideway movement with the plunge and push off, a high-risk move for ACL injuries. 240 Hz cameras capturing 240 frames per second allows very fine-grained motion capture. 960 Hz force plate, a plate that records ground reaction forces 960 times per second used to measure how the athletes pushes against the ground. This tool gives precise motion and force data for later biomechanical calculations. Knee and hip joint movements were calculated through inverse dynamics, which four different combinations of cutoff frequencies for signal filtering. Movement 10 Hz, force 10 Hz. Movement 15 Hz, force 15 Hz. Movement 10 Hz, force 50 Hz. Movement 15 Hz, force 50 Hz. Inverse dynamics means a method where you use known motion and force data to calculate internal joint forces and movement. They used four combinations, both motion and force data filtered at 10 Hz, both at 15 Hz, motion and 10 Hz, force at 50 Hz, mismatch, another mismatch, and this test, whether using different filters, creates inconsistent or biased result. The results revealed significant differences, especially between conditions with different filtering of force and movements. Significant difference equal to in statistics mean the changes are not due to random chance. This confirms that filter mismatch alters results enough to matter scientifically. Mean peak knee abduction movement for the 10-10 and 10-50 condition were and respectively. Mean means average and standard deviation, and standard deviation shows how much their values vary around the mean. Knee abduction moment, torque that tends to push the knee inward, valgus, and associated with ACL strain. Newtons meters per kilogram, normalizing torque by body weight, filtering mismatch, inflated this key injury risk metric. Ranking of players based on knee abduction moments were affected by filtering condition. Ranking means sorting athletes based on performance or risk score. This means that inconsistent filtering can shift athletes from high risk to normal, affecting research and decision making. One of 20 players with peak knee abduction moment higher than mean +1 SD with their 10-50 condition, only 11 were still above mean +1 CD when the 10-10 condition was applied. Mean +1 CD, a threshold that typically indicates someone is above average, often used in clinical screening, and the fact that only 11 out of 20 stayed above this threshold with consistent filtering shows how much filtering can be changed interpretations. Hip moments were very sensitive to filtering cutoff. Hip moments, torques at the hip joint, important for understanding proximal control during motion. Sensitivity here means even small changes in filter setting greatly affected their computed values. Mean peak hip flexion moment was and under the 10-10 and 10-50 conditions respectively. Hip flexion moment, torque that bring the thigh toward the chest, crucial in running and cutting mechanics. They increase from 3.64 to 5.92 is substantial, more than 60% change, indicating how dangerous mismatched filtering can be. Based on these findings, force and movement data should be processed with the same filter. This is the key recommendation. Always apply uniform cutoff frequencies to both force and motion signals to maintain data integrity. Conclusions from previous inverse dynamic studies where this was not the case should be treated with caution. If all the studies filtered inconsistently, the joint moment values and any injury risk claim based on them may be unreliable or exaggerate. Thanks you all for watching, subscribe and like.